19 recorded cases. First, let's confirm. It's confirmed that 19 cases reported from the prison?
Yes, what the newspapers are reporting and radio and TV stations is absolutely true. As you said in your prologue, you know, we've been able to have these cases because of the case 19 that we had in the country, which was an inmate in the Pademba Correctional Center. You know, he came to us from the police to the court, and the court, you know, sent him to us for safekeeping. He was in the remand section of the Pademba Correctional Center. Whilst he was there, I mean, before entering into the Pademba Correctional Center, first of all, because by then we had put all requisite measures in place to ensure that we fend off, you know, the COVID-19. We had our thermometer gun, we had hand washing machine, including soap and sanitizers outside the Pademba Correctional Center precinct, in order for those who are going in to wash their hands and to test their temperature as well. So when he got to the gate, we tested his temperature, he was okay, and we also ensured that he washed his hands with soap and then, you know, cleaned up his hands with sanitizer as well before going into the Pademba Correctional Center. So from that point, we couldn't have concluded that he had COVID-19. You know, medical specialists have said that the coronavirus is a disease that mutates. You cannot be able to predict, I mean, its symptoms on face value. You have to, you know, observe regularly. So when he got into the center, when he was in the remand section, you know, he came to us on the 17th of April. On the 18th, the 19th, and on the 20th, he started showing some sickly signs. So even at then, we couldn't conclude that it was COVID-19. What we did was to admit him in the hospital, in the Pademba Correctional Center. But you have been there, so definitely you know that we have a hospital in the Pademba Correctional Center.
Very standard anyway.
Yeah, so whilst he was in the hospital as well, on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and on the 24th, he admitted to us that he ran away from a quarantine home and went on to commit larceny, which is stealing. And the police, you know, got hold of him and charged him to court, and he was eventually sent to us. It was from that moment that we took the right decision by calling specialists from the 34 Military Hospital, and they came for him and took him there. Whilst he was there, they had no, I mean, contact with him whatsoever. What they did was to send him to the Connaught Hospital. Whilst he was there, the specialists at the Connaught Hospital also waited from the specialists from Emergency Operations Center to come and run the test on him. And when the test was run on him, it was found out that he actually had COVID-19. So they came to us to inform us on the 26th of April that that inmate has been confirmed as case 90 of the COVID-19 in this country. So on the 27th of April, which is our Independence Day in this country, that was not a day of rest for us or enjoyment. We were very busy working in order to ensure that all the people he had contact with in the Pademba Correctional Center, including the medical workers that we have, who are officers as well, we had to evacuate all of them from the Pademba Correctional Center into a separate place, which is known as the Male Reintegration Center.
So quickly, I want you to confirm to us, when he was taken to the cell, how many of them were there?
At the remand block, there were 163 of them, including him, 164.
Okay.
So when he was taken to the hospital as well, there were 15 sickly inmates in there. So what we did was to evacuate the 15 sickly inmates from Pademba Correctional Center, and the 163 remand inmates at the remand block at the Pademba Correctional Center to the Male Reintegration Center, former special court, where Charles Taylor used to be housed, you know, in this country. So, you know, the Male Reintegration Center used to be used during the Ebola period to keep incoming inmates so that we keep them for the incubation period, and if they showed no signs of having Ebola, we transfer them to the Pademba Correctional Center. But since Ebola ended, and since we were challenged with the issue of overcrowding, like you said in your prologue, you know, we started using it to keep inmates as well. So what we did was to move all of those inmates from the Male Reintegration Center, former special court, into Pademba Correctional Center, and move all those he had contact with in Pademba into the Male Reintegration Center. So while they were there, a lot of them started showing signs and symptoms of the COVID-19, but nobody else has showed signs in the Pademba Correctional Center. So that is to show how professional our medical team is in handling this situation.
So it's quite alarming because, you know, God knows, you know, probably that person could have contacted maybe prison officer as well on his way going to the Parliament Center.
Yes, well, the good thing is no corrections officer, you know, showed any signs of the sickness.
But they were isolated.
So they are, especially the medical people. Yes, some of them were isolated. Those who had direct contact with him, they were definitely isolated, but none of them showed signs of, you know, having contracted the COVID-19. So they are all working now. In fact, most of them are working in the male reintegration center now with these COVID-19 inmates that we have. We have 19 of them. You know, the index case that we had, when he was taken to the 34 military hospital for treatment, eventually he was taken to Fobecoles treatment center at the hostels. He escaped from the treatment center because obviously officers will be afraid, you know, to get close to them, those who are being treated there, in order for them not to contract the disease. Even if it were I, even if it were you, you'll also be afraid of what would happen if you, if you come in contact with him or her.
Because probably the professional aspect.
So he escaped, I mean, quietly, and lived in some community which we do not know about. But thankfully, the police recaptured him, and now he's with us again.
So what about?
So we have 19. So that is why we have 19.
So what about the case 90? Because I recall sometimes back he escaped from.
Yeah, that's the case I'm talking about. The case 19. The index case that we had is
19.
the case. That's the first case that we had in our center, which is Kwademba Correctional Center. He's been recaptured by the police. The police did a very good work by recapturing him. So he's with us now. So since then, we decided to keep, I mean, inmates who have been tested for COVID-19 in the male reintegration center. We have a very small hospital in there, which was constructed by this new administration under Mr. Joseph Lamboy for officers. It was supposed to be devoted for officers, but because of the prevailing situation now, we had to use it for the inmates who have COVID-19.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Chief. And so let me bring in Marcus into this, like what you know, Leslie talked about you know, there are some measures being put in place for inmates who probably will be taken to the correctional service. But at this time, you know, what we were expecting, you know, it's moved from there. So earlier, probably just about yesterday or so, there are some 19 cases reported from the prison. What's your take?
It's important and also very, very alarming. And when we look at a situation of this nature, I look at three sectors, right? I look at the justice sector, which includes the police, the courts, and the correction center, right? That is the prisons. These three sectors in one, that is for the judicial sector. I also look at the health sector, right? And also the security sector, because these three sectors showed some amount of lapses that has created a situation that has become alarming in the country. Sierra Leone is not the first country wherein we've got inmates infected with COVID-19. Even the United States, they have serious problems with that. And also Guinea, which is very, very close to us. However, case 90, the runaway COVID-19 infected person, perhaps we call him a recaptive. I call the justice sector because the police did their arrest as a result of the fact that he was caught committing larceny. Is that also?
Yeah.
And as a result of that, mechanisms have not been put in place to actually check or test that individual, because that's a big lapse. We know the present circumstances and how despicable COVID-19 is. And looking at the case definitions, you agree with me that it is very, very difficult to actually detect an individual that is infected, right? Because exclusively observation is one of the strongest mechanisms that one can use, you understand, and the test kits to actually test individuals. And this person ran away from a quarantine home, and he committed an offense for which he was arrested. And without precautionary measures, without certain modalities put in place, he was taken to Kwademba Road Correctional Center. And that is one of the that's another issue that has to do with pre-trial detentions, wherein individuals are arrested and sent to prisons whilst they are on trial. And it also brings to light the issue of bail, when certain individuals are always denied bail. So looking at all these culminating factors, you see that it has a ramification that is very, very detrimental. I see no reason why the government or EOC itself has not deployed an epidemiologist in that particular place, or an expert, health expert, understand? Because prison is a very, very important institution, you understand? Because every day people do commit crimes, you understand? And when you commit a crime, the only place they will take you to keep you for a while, it is at the prisons, you understand? And again, you have prison officers or correctional officers who deals directly with the prisoners, you understand? So as a result of that, it's very dangerous. We also have visitors coming in, you understand? Because when these inmates are in, you have visitors coming in. So it has to do with the visitors coming in, it has to do with the correctional officers, right, and the inmates themselves. So if at all we are so serious in the fight against COVID-19, there are certain disciplinary actions that should be put in place. I always say in the development of democracy, structures and processes should be taken into consideration. But when we begin to turn blind eyes and deaf ears to this, the possibility for us to have total control over certain outbreaks like this COVID-19 is very difficult. Because even at as I spoke about the justice sector, when even at the cells, when police arrest an individual for having committed a crime, there should have been a mechanism for that individual to be observed. He brought up something very, very important when he mentioned that during the Ebola period, that at the special court, you understand, there was a particular area that was reserved for people that are brought to prison. And looking at this particular sickness, right, a pandemic, it is based on observation. So if that individual could have been taken there, you understand, because I always say, when the past is lost, the future threats. The past should not be lost, because the past should be taken into consideration. If we had gone with that particular procedure, immediately there was an outbreak. You begin to put things in place, although there have been inmates in that particular place. But for the mere fact that there was this outbreak, there was the reason they could have gone to the extent of making sure that that particular place is being prepared, or any other place is being prepared. I just have that conviction that if we arrest people every day as a result of them committing crimes, you understand, and it's happening every day, you understand. If we don't have ways and means to actually control that, we take them to police cells, and for police cells, they appear court, you understand. And when they appear court, pre-trial detention, most times they are arrested and taken to prison. And you know the nature of our cells at the prison. It is overcrowded, you understand, to a very, very large extent. You also look at the issue of sanitation, which is very, very poor, you understand. If within the precinct is clean, there is all possibility that within, in the cells, you understand, it's happening all over the world. Sanitation is a serious issue. We understand.
Okay, but I think you raised a very key point, which I'll bring Chief Leslie Cole Showers into it. Like he said, he spoke about sanitation is very important, and you know, and if we're fighting COVID-19 into the prisons, then I think all of these things should be put in place. Proper, you know, sanitation at this moment.
Yes, definitely. But before you know, I give voice to that, let me just respond to some things that he said, which are partially, you know, untrue. Now, for instance, he said he would like for government to send a medical specialist to us. We have a medical specialist from the Ministry of Health and Sanitation who resides in the institution, you know, who does rounds from center to center from time to time. But he resides in Freetown. You know, he does rounds every morning in the Pademba Correctional Center to ensure that inmates are healthy and inmates, you know, their diets are being properly served.
This is the start of COVID-19,
so we have a medical,
or it has been started back then?
Yeah, it has been in existence since even when we were prisons, before converting to correctional service. We've been always having medical doctors on secondment from the Ministry of Health and Sanitation. So let me just give voice to that before I delve into the issue of, you know, sanitation. I mean, you have been to the Pademba Correctional Center, for example. So you will be a very good testifier of the fact that the Pademba Correctional Center no longer smells, you know, that kind of bad smell it used to emit, you know, in time past. Let me admit, let me be very honest, that place used to be stenchy.
Yeah.
You know, even people living around the area used to grumble about it. Journalists have been to us on several occasions to ask us as to what we are doing to ensure that the Pademba Correctional Center is healthy for those who are living within. Now, what people fail to realize is the fact that if the Pademba Correctional Center is unhealthy and is not, you know, being properly sanitized, even the officers themselves will contact, you know, some form of airborne disease or some form of sickness that emerges from, you know, a stenchy place. So over the last 2 years, we've been able to clean up that place. Now, if you even go into the cells are scrubbed every weekend.
I didn't cut short because I was there, like you said, not as a prisoner.
As a visitor.
As a visitor.
Yeah.
You know, because we went there with the human rights group in Parliament. Because I went into one of the cells, and you know, where I met one of my friends also. You know, I went there and he spoke lengthily with me, and he told me that the place is quite decent, they could able to sleep.
Yes, and you saw it for yourself.
Yeah, of course.
And that's not been I think it was last year, June or
Sure, yeah.
So that's an indication of the fact that we are a very professional institution.
So I don't know if it still continued the way I met,
yes, definitely.
met the place that day.
And you know, everybody is always welcome to visit, except that now we have the COVID-19. Yeah. We've placed a ban on all forms of visits except legal visits. You know, lawyers visit their client from time to time. So another issue he brought up was with the fact that we should have been proactive enough to resuscitate the isolation centers that we used to use during the Ebola period. And I'm a realist. I'm going to be very honest about it. You know, we're a little bit slow in that regard, you know. So that's why immediately we had the index case, we had to immediately resuscitate the isolation centers, not just in Freetown. In Kenema we have one, in Makeni we have another one, in Bo we have one, and in Poloko we also have one. So, and plus the one in Freetown. So we used to have 5, and presently we also have 5 now. So what we've done...
So it means they should blame you guys?
I just want to...
I'm trying to be a realist.
I know. I understand. I'm coming, Marcos. I'm coming, Marcos. Because
I'm trying to be realist, you know. So what we've done, I mean, a lot of people have been applauding what we've done. You know, I've been to various media institutions to talk about this, and I've been honest about the situation, because if we were actually more proactive, because what we were trying to do was to ensure that we resuscitate, like I said, we resuscitate those isolation centers that we used during the Ebola period in order to fend off the COVID-19. And to inform the public, since when Ebola came into this country, until it ended, we never had a single case recorded in any of our centers. So we were trying to achieve similar feats. We were on the planning stage. You know, this COVID-19 just came upon us like that. So we were still on the planning stage when we had, you know, this indexed case, which is case 90. So our hands were full until on the 27th of April, when we had to take, you know, that difficult decision to relocate all of the inmates who were residing in the isolation centers into the main correctional centers.
So I'll come back to you, Mark. So quickly, what's some of the processes as we speak? Like you said, you know, family members are not allowed yet to visit some of their relatives who reside at the center at this current moment. But are these guys, you know, being allowed normally, like you guys does, bringing them out to have some fresh time moving for the various normal routine?
Definitely, that's a policy for us. Every morning, inmates come out block by block to have some sunlight and to have some fresh air, you know, in the field, not just in Freetown.
How does that process work? Are the measures being adhered by them in terms of the COVID-19?
Yes, they are adhering by the measures. You know, apart from Freetown, none of our centers in the provinces have recorded any case of COVID-19, which is a good news for us. So we allow them to move freely within the precincts of the compound, and officers, it is a must that every officer put on a face mask, because they are going out and coming in, and the inmates are just in there. So it is a must. No officer goes into any of our correctional centers without masks. That's the measure we've put in place right across the country.
But are plans there for prisoners to be put on their masks?
Yes, we are working on it. We are working on it. But those inmates attending court, we provide masks to them to attend court. And when they come back, we ensure that, you know, they launder the mask to, you know, put on again whenever they are going to court in order to, you know, limit the spread
it's going to be
COVID-19.
It's their own personal or something?
Yes, it's theirs. It's theirs. But
Okay.
we monitor them to ensure that they launder it, you know, so that it is rid of any infection or virus that may be hanging in there.
So what about some of the cells, you know, like having Veronica bucket, soap, and sanitizers? You know, like when they wanted to come out, they should ensure, you know, some of these things been done, which I understand your point.
Yes, you know, some time ago when Justice Miata Samba donated some tank sauce, I think you were the one who asked me that we didn't invite AYV to go and provide it. So it's a known fact that we've received a lot of donations from organizations, from individuals, Veronica bucket, you know, Dettol, soaps, tissues, etc., just to ensure that they help us to keep this COVID-19 out of every of our correctional centers. Because mark you, if you look at countries like Iran, Afghanistan, and England, a country as advanced as England, had to take a very desperate measure to release some inmates in some of the centers that they had, you know, COVID-19. They had to release some inmates, and they had to place bracelets on them in order to monitor their movements around the country. For us who do not have those kinds of technology, so I'm sure that people have been donating those things to us in order for them and for us to make sure that we do not come to a situation in which we'll have to free inmates, because these people are criminals. Criminals will have to be with us to go through reformation, rehabilitation, and reintegration as well. Otherwise, they will come out as worse individuals or the same people and which they came into our center as. And that's not something society wants at all.
Of course. I think there were press release which came out from the judiciary, which we are asking how they should ensure not all cases should be taken.
So that's why we are very thankful that we took those measures which we took in order to relocate the inmates from Pademba Correctional Center, the sickly inmates and the remand inmates, to the male reintegration center, former special court. And since we relocated all of them, I'm telling you, no inmates are showed any signs of COVID-19 inside the Pademba Correctional Center as we speak. So that's a plus to us as an institution. All those the index case had contact with are now placed within the male reintegration center. And as I speak today, because I spoke with the medical doctor before I came here, he said no other inmates are showed any signs
apart of
the virus. And of the 19, 4 have recovered. 4 have recovered from the COVID-19. And we are going to take them back to the Pademba Correctional Center. So that's how we are working now.
Okay, so but taking them back, which I know, so taking them back to the center, are they going to be mingled with the peers?
Yes, definitely, because they've recovered. When someone has recovered from the sickness, we are told by medical specialists that they are okay to you know.
But you know, also, you know, earlier I think one of the doctors said they should wear face masks for certain period. And when you're recovered from the virus, should wear face masks from certain period.
Yes, definitely. I'm sure that's a measure, you know, because we're also working in tandem with the team from Emergency Operations Center. They are also working with us. We have 5 medical doctors from the EOC. Some are, you know, soldiers, etc. So they are working with us to ensure that we do the right things, because they have been properly trained and sufficiently trained. So they have all the know-hows, you know, as to this COVID-19 thing that we are experiencing in this country now. Okay,
Marcus, you had wanted to say something earlier. You know, sorry for interject you.
Yeah, I'm still on it. In the first place, we are talking about COVID-19 in generality, right? That is why at the start of it all, I mentioned 3 sectors, because I'm looking at case 90, because case 90 is a major factor for the outbreak of COVID-19 in correctional center, you understand? So as a result of that, that's why I look at the 3 sectors, because this individual was not at a prison prior to the outbreak. He was out of prison, understand? And he was quarantined. There comes the security apparatus. Where he was quarantined, he escaped there. So as a result of that, there has been a lapse in that particular perspective. If at all they had put measures in place to actually contain him within that quarantine home, this particular thing could not have soared. But as it is now, whilst we are trying to flat the curve, now it is expanded, especially when it has gone to community level. So the security apparatus is blamed in that particular perspective. Then the police, understand, because this is damage control now. All what they are, the mechanisms being put in place at the prison is a damage control, understand? For the mere fact that this individual came, I don't want to call them criminals as he did, because they are, some of them are on pre-trial detention. They have not yet been convicted, understand? Not all of them. If you look at the number of prisoners, right, or number of prisoners at prison, those facing pre-trial detention is around 54%. Understand? So it's just around 46% that are criminals, you understand? About 54% of the people at prisons, understand, they are still on pre-trial detention. I don't know, perhaps you can correct me on that.
Yes,
but they are on pre-trial detention, meaning that you cannot refer to all of them as criminals.
No, yeah, I'm coming, but it was made. It made
it's
a
46 actually.
46
on remand and trial.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it made
So all over the
reference-
country.
Yes,
We're
that's
talking
what I'm
all over
saying,
the
not just
country.
Padeba,
Understand?
nationwide.
All over the
46,
country,
46.
according to statistics, about 54% are
No,
on
I'm sorry,
pre-trial
your
detention. That's
statistics
a
are
pre-trial.
wrong. Your statistics
I'm
are
talking
wrong.
about pre-trial detention.
That's what I'm saying, your statistics
So-
are wrong. Because you're
What
speaking
is
of
our
pre-trial,
understanding of pre-trial detention?
those who are yet to be convicted
Yes.
of the crime which they were alleged
So
of
in the whole
committing.
country, it's only 46 people.
46% nationwide. So
Wonderful.
you are giving a statistics of 3
My
years ago.
statistics is correct, but
3 years
since you've
ago.
said that, I don't have any
No, but
problem
I'm
with
the
that.
professional
You understand?
from
No,
the
not about you
institution.
being professionals. We have other sets of institutions
Okay.
that
So-
are
so-
doing
so-
this and
so-
that are
so-
working directly
so-
with that.
I know.
But that's
So-
how we
so-
are
so
we put
so
that
where do you
down.
get your
It's all right.
statistics
No,
from?
about that. You
Let-
need to ask me.
let-
I do
okay,
research.
No, I'll ask
so-
you.
I am
so-
the executive
so-
director
so-
for Democracy Sierra Leone. That is one. And secondly,
Maybe
I'm
your
coming.
research is coming from over 3 years ago.
Not
So
3 years.
I'm telling
Okay,
you,
let's
I'm
leave
te-
that.
I'm informing you
So,
what
listen now,
obtained.
listen.
What's the
You-
current?
you- if you
What's the
have-
current statistic as we speak?
The current, just give us the
current
statistics.
statistics. Nationwide, you mean?
The
Yeah,
percentage.
nationwide.
Nationwide.
The percentage of convicted, pre-trial detention
detainees,
inmate
yeah.
that we have is 46%.
46%. Well, I'm not going. I thought you said 46 people.
No, I'm not saying
No,
46.
it's not.
Okay. I don't have problem. I said
You brought up the
54.
percentage.
I said 54, he
Yes.
said 46.
Yeah, 46%.
So I don't have any problem with that. I thought he said 46 people.
No, that's not possible.
That's statistics. That's statistics.
That's not
because
possible.
We also have people, when we talk about pre-trial detention, you have those that are not inside prison, but they are at the police cells.
Yeah.
You understand? It is all part of pre-trial detention. The number it's not consistent because certain people will be released at a particular time. So we don't
Okay,
have
let me
a
come in.
consistent
Let me come
number.
in, please. If you speak of pre-trial detention inmates, it is those inmates who are remand inmates. If you speak of trial inmates, we have pre-trial detention
Yes,
inmates.
pre-trial, yes.
And we also have trial inmates.
Yes.
Trial inmates are those who are attending high court.
High courts, okay.
We also have appellant inmates. I think nationwide we just have 2 appellant inmates around the country. That's those who are attending appeals courts. So we have to be careful when we speak of the law.
What I'm
if you are
saying here
speaking
is,
of
I'm still on my
pre-trial
legs.
detention
Pre-trial
inmates,
detention
the police are not in charge
are
of
individuals
keeping,
that
the
have
police are
not
not in
yet
charge
been
of
convicted
keeping
of an
those
offense,
pre-trial detention
but they are
inmates.
still facing trial.
That's
They have
the
not
man.
yet been convicted of an offense, but they are still facing
No,
trial.
they've not faced trial yet.
But I
understand?
think involving those who are
You face trial at the high
police
court.
cells. Yeah.
The whole issue is, you face trial at the high court.
That's
So
where you face trial.
those at magistrate court, they are not pre-trial
They are
detention.
remand inmates. They are not.
But it's pre-trial detention. But I'm talking
That's
about
what I'm saying.
pre-trial detention.
That's what I was
You
trying to
understand?
explain
A
just now.
pre-trial detention, these are individuals
Those are remand inmates.
they are suspects and they have been brought
No, suspect.
for court. You understand? And
but-
why is
but-
okay? Let's focus on COVID-19.
Sure.
That would be a different time for discussion. So as I mentioned, right, I look at the 3 sectors. I have not apportioned the whole blame on the correctional center. If I had wanted to do so, I could not have mentioned the 3 sectors like the security, you understand? Like the health sector, I could not have mentioned that. But I mentioned them, you understand? That's why when I talk about the judicial sector, they are almost at the last stage of it, you understand? Especially when people are arrested and taken to prison. They are at the last stage of it because the police have done theirs. They could have put mechanisms in place, but that was not done. And we are taking to, it passed through the judiciary, and we are taking to prison, you understand? The whole problem is that we are facing is damage control is always what we focus on. We have to be proactive than being reactive. You understand? Because all what is happening now, we've been so reactive now rather than being proactive. Because if we had been proactive, we could not have got that large number, you understand, of having 19 people infected, you understand? Even because he said that, yes, I know prison always have their medical expertise, you understand, or experts, right? My concern is we have epidemiologists looking at the present trend of COVID-19. I have not said that they have never had, you understand, health experts there. I'm looking at epidemiologists with regards to COVID-19, you understand, because you need to have these people that will look into the cases at prison. When somebody comes, you understand, just like we have contact tracers, you understand. That is why we have the EOC itself, right? So as a DPC, before we have DPC, disease, DPC, you understand? It was at Kiama Road, just around back of prisons. I mean the upper side of the administrative area. You understand? DPC was, yes, they have epidemiologists, right? I don't know whether prison presently have an epidemiologist.
I just mentioned that.
Right? I know that there are
we have specialists from EOC.
From EOC, okay.
Yes.
So look at the situation. That's why I spoke about damage control. A situation wherein this expert was there, this person was brought up, you understand, and he was observed. You understand? At the end of the day, he was taken to Connaught Hospital, you understand? So these are all damage control. I know they are working, you understand? I have a reservoir of respect for them. I'm not trying to demean the correctional center, you understand? Even before this period, you know, I serve as Secretary General for the Consortium for Good Governance, Human Rights and Democracy. Yeah. We had wanted to actually visit prison, you understand? We wrote a letter and no reply. In fact, we are about to do another letter to the director, you understand? To remind him that we did a letter to you requesting that we want to go to prison and actually see the conditions by virtue of the fact that we cover human rights, good governance and democracy, you understand, rule of law and all that. That was denied us. But the fact is, damage control is a problem that we are facing, you understand? The security sector failed from the quarantine home, you understand? The medical experts also failed in that. Today, we are facing this kind of a problem. Sierra Leone is not the only country. I mentioned even California, you understand? If you look at California, we have a large number of inmates being infected. Just like you said, you spoke about the UK, some of them have been released, you understand? So we have to look at all these situations and actually find ways. That's why I said when the past is lost, the future threats. If what the experience that people have gathered from the past, if they are put into effect, we could not have degenerated into this particular kind of a situation. So this is, what we should do now is to ensure, he made a very good point when he said that since they became proactive and some of the inmates that we are infected or those that we are sick, equally a particular number of them, we are taken to special court. And to date, they have not recorded any case
in Pademba
or at Pademba Road, you understand? It is fine. That is what we want to hear, right? But the 19 we are already taking. They are part of the group that was taken to that special court. And because of observation. So this first one, that's why I say it's a damage control issue now. The first one was not properly observed. The nature of COVID-19 is actually difficult to explain, you understand, in the sense that case definitions varies, you understand? And when the case definitions varies, it's very, very difficult. We've got huge lot of issues now around that. So the whole problem now is, or the whole situation now is, let them continue to be proactive. I have the conviction that the space at which they have gone, it will not be easy for them to revert back to prisons having a case, you understand? I have that conviction because of what they are doing now. But the fact is, he needs to accept certain things. Though I like him for one thing, although he denied the aspect of the sanitation area. I have not gone to prison. I have not gone there, you understand? That could have been my first opportunity when we wrote that we want to go Yes, to actually
been there.
Yeah, but
He
because
said this, you understand? Yes,
Presenter has been
no, he
there
has gone
very
there. He
recently.
has been there.
And the Human Rights
and huge
Commission
lot of
was
people
also
have been there.
there
We
very
did, that's why I
recently.
said we
And they
did
came
a
out with a
letter.
press release.
Because we can't just go there. We did a letter.
But
Understand?
that should have
I'll
been a
come
good
to that.
opportunity
I'll address
for you
that.
guys
Yeah,
to
that
be
is
there,
what I'm
because
trying to say,
I
because-
was there last year
Yes.
and we
he
visited
saw. He
and
saw.
we saw exactly what happened.
Yes,
So I'm not
I know.
actually defending them.
No, I know what I'm trying to say.
No, but you
People
been
have
there.
been
That's
visiting.
what I'm saying.
People have been
That's what I'm
visiting,
saying.
And also, you have gone there. Apart from him, other people have also gone there.
Yeah, like the Human
You
Rights
understand?
Commission, just before we had
Yes.
this index case,
My
they were
case
in
here
there.
is,
And they came out
we
with a very good
did a
report.
letter. We did a letter, right? And we are denied the opportunity to access prison, understand, and do our observation. That is an impeccable fact.
Okay.
If you go
May I
back
come
to,
in?
Okay,
Yes.
so let me.
Well, when did you write that letter?
We did the letter before the prison protest.
Okay.
Before the prison protest.
Before the riots?
Yes, before the riots.
No,
Well, before then, we had stopped all forms of visits, whether from the Human Rights Commission, whether from any
No,
other.
but Human Rights
any
Commission
other-
visited the fact after the prison protest.
Yeah.
So we did
The
it before
Human
that.
Rights
You mean
Commission
before?
visited
You see?
before. I'm
Before.
sure you saw
At
that
the time,
news.
Yes,
at
it
the
was
time
before.
Human Rights, at
I'm
the
coming,
time they
please.
did that.
I allowed you to speak.
Okay, allow
Let me
me.
speak.
But I gave you the chance because I had not.
No, the
completed.
presenter gave me
You
the
understand?
chance.
Okay, but one thing I want to say is,
No, but-
at the time they did their letter, we almost did ours at the same time. In fact, we are surprised because we discussed it at our meeting that we did a letter. These guys also did a letter, and they have been allowed to go and see or observe situations at prison.
But-
That is just my
okay.
concern. I want to believe with you being here, that perhaps that will be resolved.
Okay.
But when we are denied such opportunities, and we've decided to make it very clear that we did a letter, except if you
Okay,
want to say
that's
we did
good.
not
No,
do a
okay,
letter.
That's a very
Okay,
good
good.
point
Yes,
you
sir.
brought up.
Okay.
Now,
Yes,
on the issue
Leslie?
of visit, like I said earlier, we've stopped all
No, for that is
forms of,
difficult.
especially after the riots
That is
that occurred in the Pademba Correctional Center. You know, before the riots, I think 2 weeks earlier or so, the Human Rights Commission visited in order to see, because all sort of negative information were coming out to the public. The public were forming all sort of, notions about us, especially the Pademba Correctional Center, when we had those Palo contests and others. They were saying all sort of things. So they had to visit to see for themselves and to inform the public that, and contrary to popular belief, things are okay in the Pademba Correctional Center. And they came out with a press release, which was even converted into news by various
because
media
I
institutions
read that
and
report,
newspapers as
yeah.
well. So, and they said there was nothing bad that was happening in India. The place was not smelling, as people were alleging. A lot of people want to see beyond the walls of our centers, but it is impossible for everybody to see beyond the walls of our centers. So it was really nice that the Human Rights Commission went. In fact, they came to us. They did not write a letter to us like he is alleging. They came to us unannounced. They are the Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone. They have the right to go into
so
any
that's
of our
it.
correctional centers across the country. So when they came to us, on the spur of the moment, we had to allow them to go into the Pademba Correctional Center. Otherwise, they would have concluded that bad things were going on in there. So we escorted them and they went in there. And when they came out with a very good report about what they saw inside the Pademba Correctional Center. As for his letter, I'm not so sure it was discussed in our meetings anyway. Let me be very honest. After the riot, you said. Was it after the riot that you wrote?
Before the riot?
We did our letter with
Before the
regards to
riot.
Palo Conte and others because of the same information that was
Allegations.
out. You
Okay.
understand?
Okay.
That in terms of treatment and all that, it's okay. In as much as
I'm not sure.
we've been
Okay.
intervening
Okay.
on human rights issues, it's okay, let's do a letter to go there.
Okay.
That's why I said at the period when
Before
human
the
rights
human
went there,
rights.
that was similar. In fact, perhaps we did ours before they went there.
Okay.
Because before
That's
that day when they
something
went
we are
there
going
and
to
they came
look
out with
into.
news,
I assure you.
we had already sent a letter in.
I assure you,
Yeah.
my brother, that we are going to look into that issue. But I am not sure it was discussed in our meetings because from time to time, we discuss some of those issues, letters that come to us for visits and for other things. But I'll assure you that the next time you write a letter, let me just advise you.
We're going to do
address
a
it
reminder.
directly. Okay, address it directly to the Director General
That is what we did.
himself. So he'll be able to
That's
take
what we
action
did,
on it.
actually.
So for you to say you were denied I'm not sure you were denied.
We have not gone there, so we are denied.
No, you were not
Probably,
denied. If you were denied, we're going to send a letter back to you saying we deny your letter that you wrote to us.
But if it is not responded to, then it implies
But,
that we are denied.
okay, well,
It's not responded
No, I do not agree with that.
so Chief, so let me come back to you. So, like the correctional service here in Freetown. So, how many of inmates are we having in terms of
Figure?
Yeah, figure.
Okay, I have the figures here with me. You know, everywhere we go, we have our figures.
Sure.
We are very accurate in terms of delivering our figures.
Okay.
You know, at the Pademba Road Correctional Center alone, you know, we have 1,520 male inmates in there as we speak. You know, that's been a reduction. Some time ago, I was here to talk about the Mafanta Correctional Center, blocks that were, you know, revived, including the pretrial detention center that was constructed at Patalo. They have helped us to reduce the number. In the Pademba Road Correctional Center, 3 years ago, we used to have 2,500 inmates inside the Pademba Road Correctional Center. And that center was constructed to house 324 inmates. Yeah. So can you imagine? That's over 100% overcrowding. Over that. So we thank God that we were helped by the government and by donor organizations to resuscitate blocks that were burned down during the war at the Mafanta Correctional Center. That's why we've been able to have this kind of number now inside the Pademba Road Correctional Center. So for
it's about 1,500.
1,520. That's a reduction of over 219% or so.
So which more needs to be done.
Because more needs to be done, but something has already been done. Yeah. You know, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a step. So that is what we've already done. So for the grand total male nationwide, we have 4,253 across the country for male inmates. 4,253. And for the female, we have 137 across the country. You know, in terms of criminology, if you do criminal psychology, you've discovered that men are predisposed to commit crimes than women. That's why we have lower figure of female inmates and male. So nationwide, both male and female, we have 4,387. And at some point, yes, as we speak now. Yeah. And at some point, 2 years ago, so we used to have 4,500 and something figure at time. At a particular point, we had 4,700 inmates, encroaching towards 5,000 figure. Yeah. It was very difficult for us as an institution, but we managed what we used to have. And regarding the isolation center that we created for the Ebola situation, you know, like I said, we used to have them to observe them for the incubation period. But since the Ebola ended and we were challenged with the issue of overcrowding, we had no other choice but to decongest some of our most popular centers and put in some of these inmates in those isolation centers that were constructed by the United Nations Development Program. So when this COVID-19 came, it just happened upon us. You know, COVID-19 is more contagious than Ebola. I'm sure you'll agree with me, because some medical experts are saying it is airborne. You know, so it is more contagious than Ebola. Just that Ebola is more deadly. So I think we should be receiving some applause from the public because of what we have done, rather than criticism.
All right, we are rounding up now. So let me come back to you, Marcos. What will be your pattern shot as we try to close?
All sectors that are connected to the fight against COVID-19 to put all hands on deck. They should be proactive. We don't want a situation of damage control, understand, because, you know, from the start of it all, we are in good preparedness. The president went far and wide, finding ways and means to talk to people about COVID-19. But irrespective of that, we had a case. And that case came up as a result of indiscipline, again, on the side of those concerned. Because if you can remember, there was a time when flights were suspended. And all of a sudden, it was extended for about 24 hours. And it was during that particular period that we had the first case, you understand? And today, we are now caught in a web. So that is why we should endeavor to flatten this curve. Otherwise, it will be detrimental. It has affected almost every aspect of our lives, understand? Now you see churches and mosques have been closed for a while now. You see our colleges, universities, schools have been closed for a while now. And things continue to get harder and tougher, you understand, in society. So that is why at the start of my submission, I mentioned that 3 sectors, right, because they are in charge. The justice sector for prisons, in terms of the prisoners, not COVID-19 particularly. But you look at the health sector, you look at the security sectors, you understand? They have to actually redouble their efforts. They need to stand tall, you understand, to ensure that we are able to mitigate the chain of transmission, you understand? Otherwise, it will take a longer time. And there is no need for us to continue with COVID-19. Okay. My last words is to you, understand? Because I mentioned 54, you mentioned 46. Yes. So as a result of that, and when you say 54, in 100%, it is 46 that remains. So meaning that it is the 46 remand prisoners that we have. Is that not so? Yeah. And also 54 pre-trial detainees, you understand? Because convicted, you understand? So I was through my own visa, because I'm doing a work. I'm doing a work on pre-trial detention, you understand? And very soon I will come with a report on that. So that is why I have already done my investigation about the number, 4,000 something, you understand? You look at the statistics in that, the one that we got is 54. But you have given us, so I will keep in touch with you, because we require more information for the general good of all.
Yeah, sure, that's very important. Marcus, thank you very much. Feel free to come to us. Chief Leslie Cole-Showers, what will be your parting shot?
Yes, I just want to allay the public sphere that definitely, as an institution, we're not going to come to a point where we'll have to release inmates on the grounds that we've had so many COVID-19 cases. Definitely, we will not come to that. I'm assuring the public of that. Yeah. We have very good medical people who are working with us. We have officers who are trained and qualified nurses. And we also have the doctor with us who resides in our institution, who does rounds across the country. So let the public rest assured that we are doing everything within the coverage of our powers, our medical powers, to ensure that these cases that we've recorded so far do not spread. And the good news is, as I said earlier, is that the remainder of the inmates who are in the former special court, male reintegration center, have not shown any signs of the illness, apart from those who are admitted in the small hospital that we have in the male reintegration centers. So that's a plus to us as an institution, and we'll continue to do our level best to keep the country safe, because let's not lose sight of the fact that our primary responsibility is security and not medicine.
Okay. All right, so thank you very much, Chief Leslie Cole-Showers. He's a public relations officer of the Sierra Leone Correctional Service. Many thanks for being part of the show.
Thank you for having me.
Despite we called you very late. It was quite important.
No, it's okay. Anyway. It's okay. I should always be prepared.
I know. So thank you very much. And also Marcus Bangwa is the Executive Director for Democracy Sierra Leone. So this is where I'll bring to an end this edition of your News and Current Affairs show. But I want to say happy birthday to DJ Kojo. Is the sound engineer at AYV. So today he's actually celebrating his birthday with all of us, including our guest here.
Happy birthday to him. Wish him well.
You're right. And also those who are watching us from across the globe. We're very sorry we can't go to our Facebook page. I was trying to go through there, but I think we have some technical problem, because some of them were saying that they have some sound problem on our Facebook page. We are in, later on, the technical team worked on it, but we don't have enough time to go through all of these messages on our Facebook page. We're really sorry about that. So I want to say thanks for those who have been watching us, to our technical team and my producers. So till tomorrow for another edition of your News and Current Affairs show, I've been your presenter, David Gamer Wilson. Bye for now. Good afternoon and welcome to the stage for the live on live TV on the channel.
You're watching AYV Television.
International. Are you ready? From the first kick of the ball to the final